As I said, we'll be returning to topic number one, the economy, throughout the debate. Byron York has the next round of questions.
Thank you, Brett. We're going to start with Governor Romney. Governor, in 2005, when you were the governor of Massachusetts, you successfully appealed to Standard & Poor's to upgrade your state's credit rating. You said you used a combination of spending cuts and new revenues to put Massachusetts on a more sound financial footing. You even approvingly cited a tax increase passed by the Democratic state legislature. Question, doesn't this show that sometimes raising taxes is necessary?
No, I don't believe in raising taxes. And as governor, I cut taxes 19 times and didn't raise taxes. Let's step back and talk about the first part of what you said. I was fortunate enough to be a governor that got an increase in the credit rating of my state. At the same time, we got a president who got a decrease in the credit rating of our nation. And that's because our president simply doesn't understand how to lead and how to grow an economy. I was very proud of the fact that Republicans and Democrats worked together in Massachusetts to cut spending. I came in, we had a huge deficit. I went to the legislature and I said, I want expanded powers to unilaterally be able to cut spending, not just slow the rate of growth, but to cut spending. And they gave it to me, and I did. We cut spending. Every single year I was governor, we balanced the budget. And by the end of my term, we had put in place over a $2 billion rainy day fund. That kind of leadership is what allowed us to get a credit upgrade from Standard & Poor's, and that's the kind of leadership we finally need to have in the White House.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to Governor Pawlenty next. Governor, you say you balanced every budget without tax increases as governor of Minnesota. But in 2005, you levied a new tax on cigarettes, which you called a health impact fee. You said you had to compromise with the Democratic legislature to end a government shutdown. But doesn't that show that when leaders are faced with big deficits, they sometimes have to raise taxes?
No. As I said before, I've got the best record of financial management, or one of them, of any governor in the country. The Cato Institute gave only 4 governors in America their highest grade, an A grade. I was one of those governors. The other 3 aren't running. The other 3 aren't even thinking about running. As to the circumstance that you mentioned, I had the first government shutdown in 150 years. We did put together a package, but I balanced the budget every time in Minnesota that I was the governor. In fact, my last budget ended June 30th of this year with a surplus. I did agree to the cigarette fee. I regretted that. As it turns out, the courts later held it to be a fee, but nonetheless, it was an increase in revenues. Turns out we had a new budget forecast a few months later, and we didn't even need it. But my record of leadership in Minnesota, cutting spending from historic highs to historic lows, balancing the budget every time, doing health care reform the right way, again, stands in contrast to Barack Obama. He should cancel his Cape Cod vacation, call the Congress back into session, and get to work on this. Barack Obama is missing in action. He should have the kind of leadership I had when I was governor of the state.
Thank you, Governor. Next, we're going to go to Representative Bachmann. This is a question also about that cigarette tax increase. You were in the Minnesota State Legislature at the time, and you said you opposed the tax, but in the end, you voted for it. Now you promise never to raise taxes. Why would you compromise then, but not now?
That's right. I was very vocal against that tax, and I fought against that tax. The problem is, when the deal was put together, Governor Pawlenty cut a deal with the special interest groups, and he put in the same bill a vote to increase the cigarette tax, as well as a vote that would take away protections from the unborn. And I made a decision. I believe in the sanctity of human life, and I believe you can get money wrong, but you can't get life wrong. And that's why I came down on that decision that I made.
Governor Pawlenty, do you have a response, 30 seconds to that?
Yeah, what's wrong in the answer is the answer. Congresswoman Bachmann didn't vote for that bill because of stripping away a pro-life protection. She voted for it and is now creating that as the excuse. But nonetheless, she speaks of leading these efforts in Washington and Minnesota. Leading and failing is not the objective. Leading and getting results is the objective. I've got the best record of results of any candidate in this race.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to Senator Santorum next.
Okay, yes, you can.
This is exactly what I'm trying to illustrate. We need to have a president of the United States who stands firm on their convictions. This is what I have demonstrated for every day that I have been in Congress. I have a consistent record of standing on my convictions. I didn't cut deals with special interests where you put the pro-life issue together with tax increase issues. That's a fundamental. It's a non-negotiable. And when we come to a non-negotiable, we must stand, and I stand.
Governor, we're going to come back around.
Just very quickly, her answer is illogical. If there were two bad things in the bill, a tax increase and we were hypothetically stripping away pro-life protections, which we weren't, then it's a double reason to vote against it. She voted for it.
I need to respond to that.
We have other people here.
I need to respond to that because I need to respond to that.
I understand.
There's some people over here.
I understand. You have the next question. You have the
lot.
next question, Senator. I promise. Congresswoman Bachmann, 15 seconds, okay?
This is what I want to say. If a member cast a vote one way, they would be increasing the cigarette tax. If they cast a vote another way, they would not be voting for the pro-life protection. It was a choice. The governor put us in that box, and I chose to protect human life.
Okay, we'll come back around later. Byron.
All right, next we're going to Senator Santorum.
Yes, we are.
As I told you when I traveled around Iowa, you'd see me in your hometown, but you probably wouldn't see much of me on television, so it's holding true tonight.
Well, Senator, here you are. The deficit-cutting supercommittee is now getting to work. Democrats will demand that savings come from a combination of spending cuts and tax increases, maybe $3 in cuts for every $1 in higher taxes. Is there any ratio of cuts to taxes that you would accept? 3-to-1, 4-to-1, or even 10-to-1?
No, the answer is no, because that's not the problem. The problem is that we have spending that has exploded. Government has averaged 18% of GDP as the percentage of the overall economy that government eats up, and we're now at almost 25%. Revenues are down about 2 or 3%. So if you look at where the problem is in spending, not taxes. And we'll get those taxes up if we grow the economy. I put forth a plan to grow the economy, and I've provided leadership in the past to get bipartisan things done. You know, I sympathize with Michelle Bachmann, who stands up and says, I'm going to stand firm on these things. You need to stand firm on these things, but you can't stand and say, you give me everything I want or I'll vote no. You have to find the principles, like I did on welfare reform. I said 3 things to cut a federal entitlement, to end it. The 3 things we wanted to accomplish: end a federal entitlement, which we did. We wanted to require work, which we did. And we wanted to put a time limit on welfare. We did those 3 things. We compromised on everything else. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got the core of what I wanted, and we transformed welfare. You need leaders. You need people who are good at leadership, not showmanship.
But just confirming, Senator, you would not negotiate on raising taxes?
Absolutely not, because it's not the problem, and the Democrats know it's not the problem. This is where leadership comes in. You go out to the American public and you lay out the facts. I've been traveling around Iowa, and I lay out the facts to people, and they nod their heads and they say, yeah, this makes sense. We need to get the economy growing. That doesn't mean taking more money out of it. That means creating energy jobs, creating manufacturing jobs, and my plan will do that.
Well, I'm going to ask a question to everyone here on the stage. Say you had a deal, a real spending cuts deal, 10-to-1, as Byron said, spending cuts to tax increases. Speaker, you're already shaking your head. But who on this stage would walk away from that deal? When you raise your hand, if you feel so strongly about not raising taxes, you'd walk away on the 10-to-1 deal. Mr. Speaker, why are you shaking your head?
I think this...
Is that not an important question?
I think this super committee is about as dumb an idea as Washington has come up with in my lifetime. I mean, if you will for a second, I mean, I used to run the House of Representatives. I have some general notion of these things. The idea that 523 senators and congressmen are going to sit around for 4 months while 12 brilliant people, mostly picked for political reasons, are going to sit in some room and brilliantly come up with $1 trillion, or force us to choose between gutting our military and accepting a tax increase is irrational. They're going to walk in just before Thanksgiving and say, all right, we can shoot you in the head or cut off your right leg. Which do you prefer? What they ought to do is scrap the committee right now, recognize it's a dumb idea, go back to regular legislative business, assign every subcommittee the task of finding savings, do it out in the open through regular legislative order, and get rid of this secret, phony business.
Okay. Just making sure everyone at home and everyone here knows that they all raised their hands. They're all saying that they feel so strongly about not raising taxes that a 10-to-1 deal they would walk away from. Confirming that. Now.